love listening to the birds in the morning in the garden. And here comes Draco, back from his nightly hunting. Good morning, baby. Hey, if you're new here, my name is Rachel, and this is Auxhart Gardening, and today is our week 19 garden tour. We are getting so close to the fall season. It is actually a little chilly out here. It is warming up, but we are getting pretty close to the frost, and the fall garden is almost all the way in. Here's Miss Kata coming to check everything out. She's a little more timid outside in the garden than Draco is. You can tell the difference because Kata is all shiny and she has that yellow color. So if you're new here, I do a garden tour every week. Well, I have since 19 weeks ago. Last year I did this only through the summer growing season, but I'm going to try and continue this as long as I can because I think it's really important for you guys to see not only the fun peak of the garden, but also the transition seasons where everything doesn't look so good and into more lushness, because I think that is what gives you the real motivation when you see it go from looking dead and disastrous to beautiful again. It can be so easy to, especially right now at the end of the season, watch everything wind down and feel like, it's over, time to give up, like, that plant's dying, I don't even care about it anymore. But if you put in the work now, getting ready for the fall season, then you might have a beautiful fall garden to look forward to instead of just throwing in the towel and being done with it. Not everyone can have a fall garden or a winter garden like I'm trying to do. I live in South Carolina in the upstate. This is zone 7B, and I can feasibly grow over the winter a lot of cold hardy things, and I know that's not possible for a lot of people, but I still think that this can be inspiring because you do have all of those dead plants at the end of the season, and you have the summer season to prepare for again, and making sure that you are excited for that can be important, especially when it's really cold and going to be really hard work to get it in again. So there have been some changes in the garden. Some things have been taken out, some things have been put in, and the fall garden is really starting to come together. So we'll start here where we always do. This is the tomato trellis that is just about done. You can see there are still green tomatoes on it, but at this point I may end up having to pull them before they ripen up because of the frost coming. Now, technically we still have a couple of weeks, but at this point when you're a couple of weeks out, you never really know quite when it's going to happen. The 10-day forecast doesn't say that it's happening yet, but we are getting down into the 40s at night, so we're getting pretty close now. And also on this trellis, I have all of these purple beans. These were blue cocoa pole beans, and I am letting them mature as much as possible before the frost so that I can have dried beans from them. They are pretty close, to be honest. Like this one, I don't know if you can tell, but it's all leathery and the seeds feel loose inside, which is how you know that your beans are ready. Oh, look at that. Those look like they are supposed to. And you can just take these inside and dry them and use them like normal dried beans. Just make sure you cook them for at least 10 minutes first. Something I am struggling with a little bit right now is what to do about this beautiful row of eggplant. So my eggplant still look gorgeous. I mean, they are falling over, but other than that, they are producing and they don't look sad except for being fallen over. And so I had planned this space to be a row of large brassicas going all the way back, and in addition to the eggplants looking great, my peppers still look pretty great, and I think if I wait a little bit I might be able to get some more ripe sweet peppers off of these, as well as wait for all of these beautiful Tabasco peppers to ripen. And so I'm running into this conundrum of this space needs to have brassicas planted out in it because they need a little bit of that warmer weather to get established before the frost, at least ideally. And so I'm not really sure what the right decision is here, because it feels like, especially with the peppers, you know, taking them out now is actually a big sacrifice of harvest. And I don't know how much it's going to affect the brassicas to be put in after the first frost, but it doesn't feel like it would be ideal for them, because I can imagine those plants being stunted, not having any warm weather to really get their roots established. And tell me if I'm wrong, because this is my first year growing big brassicas like this, but I think that they need to go in, and they are not in. And once it cools down, everything starts growing slower, for sure. And so maybe they will be stunted and small, and I won't get my big harvest from them, because a lot of brassicas are this headed harvest, like cabbage and cauliflower and broccoli. So I don't really know what to do. Stay tuned for what I decide to do and how that turns out. Check out this nasturtium though. This is one plant. So pretty. And all of the pepper plants, like, even though I thought they were going to die pretty early on from a disease, they've pretty much survived. There's a couple of them that look kind of sad, and you can see this stick of a plant here, but then right in front of it is this massive banana pino plant. And so I really don't want to take them out just yet. So if we look right in here, the eggplant are laying over a little bit. There is a row of brassicas where the beans used to be, and I have here some baby Brussels sprouts, and there are also broccoli plants. Some of them are very tiny, and we'll see how this goes. I've interplanted them. That's another one right there. With the eggplant, I didn't cut it back at all. I tried to plant with correct spacing, also a little bit in, oh there it is, in spots where they can get a little bit of sun. And the eggplant should theoretically die in a couple of weeks, so it shouldn't set these guys back too much. And this one at the end, I had to put a little box around because I kept cutting the corner and almost stepping on it. But this is, all of this row is stuff that I started from seed, and the row on the end, which I'll show you in a minute because I go in order, it was store-bought. So it'll be a really cool comparison to see the starts that I started and the store-bought ones and how they perform differently. My arched trellis, still full of noodle beans, right up here until the very end. Not looking so hot, but still surviving. We've got noodle beans that look like this that are starting to dry out, and then there are noodle beans that are almost dried out. Let's see, here's one that is young and fresh and could maybe be picked for eating in a couple of days. So still all stages of the life cycle around here. Oh, here's some more. These are about edible sized. And then behind the noodle beans are my green beans, pole beans. So these I planted not that long ago and actually got my first harvest from yesterday. You can see some of these beans are pretty much eating sized, and there are about to be a lot more baby beans everywhere. Oh, and gorgeous little tendrils just twisting up this trellis. I thought that I was going to have too many green beans, and we'll see once this really comes into production. But right now this is my only source of green beans, which was the plan in terms of planting this late in the season, because this is supposed to be replacing the pole beans that you saw on the tomato trellis, the ones that I'm letting go to seed for dried beans. And those plants were kind of reaching the end of their life anyway, so it's a really good natural transition to let them go ahead and make their seeds and be able to harvest those as an edible crop, and then plant these in time for them to really come into production. If we walk past this trellis, things are looking very different over here. This is where the tomato jungle was, and yesterday I pulled out all of the dead tomato vines and some of the live ones and pulled all those green tomatoes off, and I planted some root vegetables. So you can kind of see if I step over here. So between these poles there's one row from pole to pole, and then there's a middle row covered in cardboard here, and then between these other two poles there's another row. And each of these 3 rows is 3 smaller rows of roots in itself. And the reason that some of this is covered in cardboard is because I'm trying to germinate carrot seeds, and anyone who's ever tried to germinate a carrot seed knows how rough it is, and you have to keep them moist for a very long time. They take at least a week to germinate, sometimes longer. And so a lot of times people will put things like cardboard or wooden boards over their carrot seeds so that they can kind of hold in that moisture and help keep them from drying out and actually germinate, because germination rate on carrots is actually kind of low on average. I think I read somewhere that like 60% is kind of normal for carrot seeds. I also wanted to show you guys that the tomato vines that were here, I cut them off right at soil level instead of trying to rip up these root balls, because it's a pretty extensive root network down there and there's no real reason for me to disturb it. Now that the plants have been cut off, that will start slowly breaking down, and the structure of the soil that has been curated by these plants can stay intact for the next plants. So down this left side, where all the squash used to be and nothing has been in a while, are the brassicas that I bought from the store. I actually got these from the botanical garden at Clemson, and I have Brussels sprouts and cauliflowers, and these are Long Island Brussels sprouts and graffiti cauliflowers, and these have been planted out for at least a week almost, I think. So these are going to look a little bigger already than the other ones, but I think that they were bigger to start. And so these are kind of also interplanted with the stuff existing here, but again, pretty much everything around them is going to die here pretty soon, and so they're not going to get choked out by anything. It's been really nice to still have the zinnias flowering in the garden. I actually, the other day, saw some monarch butterflies. I think I saw 2, but it might have been one that I saw twice. And I think that that is really cool. I'm so happy that I'm able to create an environment where they can come and eat from some flowers and be pretty and feel safe. Here are some of those other starts that I haven't put in yet. These are more Brussels sprouts and broccoli, and I think there's some kohlrabi in here that I need to find a place for, and I don't know what's going to happen to them. They will go in the ground at some point, but whether or not they do well or survive is a whole nother question. Alright, lastly, quick little update on this raised bed. Not that interesting because these plants are at a stage where they're not really growing. But the good news is everything survived being transplanted, and I'm pretty sure at this point that nothing's going to die. Alright, so short garden tour today, but remember, if you want more garden tours, I do have a playlist on my channel. You can go back and watch 2021 tours, or you could go all the way back and watch my tours from the small garden from previous years. And I put out a new garden tour every Wednesday. Sometimes it's a little late, but I do my best. So if you want to be notified when those come out, please subscribe. It also does really help support my channel when you subscribe, so if you like the content, I would really appreciate it. I'm also currently working on editing a couple of really cool videos for you guys that I cannot wait for you to see, so stay tuned for those. And until next time, I wish you all happy gardening.